Hey, Natsu here. Today I'm going to do part 0B of What If Deku was an Oni Slayer. In the last part I said that in this one I would start with how the worlds and magic works. After that I'm going to do a bit more, continuing the story with Izuku. But yeah, so Deku, the worlds in this one, the way they work is pretty much that every world is connected in some way. Some worlds have just some differences, some have a lot more. Some go faster, some go slower. Sorry about that. But yeah, so since Deku will only be in this one and in his own world, I'm only going to explain those two, as well as the rules of magic, which is going to make it a lot easier for everyone. So, the way basically the two worlds work together and how they are connected is basically that for every world that exists, there is at least one portal to go to them. Some worlds you need to go to other worlds to basically connect to those ones, while in contrast, some worlds are connected to a lot more. Like, let's say, the world they are in right now, which is actually pretty interesting to note that this one is basically one of the original worlds of the Onis. What I mean by this is basically that, the way it works, Onis come from different worlds across the dimensional planes. Every time they conquer a world and basically establish themselves as being the dominant species, the world start to change to basically be more akin to their rules, as well as magic starting to establish itself a lot more. Every world that are directly connected to a world where there is a lot of magic, thanks to portals or other ways like that, normally have a lot of magic in them. Some have more than others. Like the world Deku is in right now, precisely, is one of the four worlds, that are actually original worlds that were inhabited by Onis only, as well as animals, but there were no humans in those four worlds. Until the first portal was created. The way it happened was actually a mix of magic and machinery. Basically, other worlds had magic before being connected to the worlds of the Oni, and there is a world in particular that tried to access more magic. It's basically it was a government that tried to access another world with magic to basically steal that one to make themselves more powerful. Problem that happened was that when they did it, they kind of broke many things. First thing that they broke is literally um, the barrier that was protecting every world from basically being together. At first, it was only a hole, but over time, though, that hole multiplied, and then there were more and more and more that started to separate and connect to more worlds. Some worlds have a lot of magic, some have almost none, and some are literally all dry of it, for lack of a better word. So, the way it works is basically that Deku's world in particular, the only magic inside of it is the magic created inside of Onis or people who are born with magic. They need, um, people who have magic and are born with it need to have an ancestor that had some to be born directly with magic and have a body that produces it, while someone that basically lives in a world with magic, their body doesn't need to create it. If they're born with it, they do create it, but they don't need it to use it. So Deku is basically an anomaly that both has magic in a world without magic, as well as, having a huge amount of it being created naturally in his body. So, now, the way magic works, basically for different worlds. To be more precise, the world of My Hero Academia and the world they are in right now. The world of My Hero Academia is extremely special. It is one of the, um, well, pretty uncommon world that the only people who are able to use magic in those worlds are people who actually create it themselves. As well as they need to actually be born in that world at the same time, which means that no Oni Slayers are actually in that world because, they can't really hunt them there. And even if they do kill them, the soul basically just goes into another place, staying in that same world, and just kind of pops back up and continues wreaking havoc, since without magic they cannot steal the souls. So, in compared to that world, the world they are in right now, as long as you know how to use magic, basically as long as you know a spell or two, you can use it. Because there's a lot of magic in it that basically just kind of feeds constantly in everyone. So as long as they're there, they have magic inside of them and they can use it. Everyone still has a limit that they can take. So, Deku, his limit is pretty impressive. When the man said in the last part that Deku had more magic than him, he was not lying. Deku's limit of, magic capacity is pretty high, even for, someone who would be trained. As well as both having the capacity to produce it, as well as the capacity to absorb a large amount of it over time. Meaning that he can easily just replenish his magic just by going in a world that has magic or having a magic crystal or something like that that he can break and magic gets absorbed in his body. So basically Deku is kind of a prodigy in that aspect. So the man explained to him basically how well, now we go back to Deku and the man. Oh yeah, also, the name is between Shikori Sky and it was. Be right back. Vladimir. One is from Insane Monster, I think, and the other one is from Soviet Comrade. Both are people on Discord, and basically they each gave a name that they wanted. You can vote in the comment section which one you would like him to have. Anyway, we won't see him again after part 0C. He will be mentioned multiple times though. So that's why I truly need a name instead of just calling him the Hunter or the Slayer. So yeah. So the Hunter basically after Deku, well, basically after around a week or so for Deku's metabolism to basically get used to this world, since day-night cycle is completely inversed, well, reversed. So that man basically tell Deku that, well, no, it's more that Deku basically said so we can start the training now, with the man saying yes, and then telling him you remember the promise, right? With Deku saying after the training is done, I have to hunt Onis when I know there's one around. This is the duty of an Oni slayer. Which the hunter basically tells him, good. So, first thing you'll need to learn to do is actually use magic. Most hunters actually use magic or stealth. Me, precisely, I use both. As well as weapons and other things. Which intrigued Deku a bit. So the man told him, we're going to start by training your magic. Teaching you how to use different elements and basically letting you grow from there. As well as teaching you some pretty good spells. As well as the things you will need to actually hunt Onis. Which Deku was happy to hear. So for the next for about 6 months afterward, Deku was trained in using all elemental magic that the man knew, as well as sealing magic to both seal, trap Oni's soul in bottles, jars, or whatever like that, as well as sealing magic that basically they seal them into a weapon, a piece of armor, an accessory, anything like that. Next thing he taught Deku was actually a type of magic that allows him to forge if he has the materials, as well as another type of magic that basically allows him to store items. Those items, well, the way it works, to be more precise, that one, it's as long as Deku is able to lift it, he can put it in. The space inside of it is practically limitless. It's literally a pocket dimension, so it's pretty big. So basically he taught Deku to use both of those at the same time. storing ores and other material, then looking in his mind at the materials inside of his pocket dimension, choosing the ones he wants to use, and then use the forging magic that allows him to melt stuff and basically build the entire weapons he wants easily. The process normally takes around 5 minutes to an hour, depending on what you want to do. So, deku precisely the first weapon he made. Basically, he needs to have the exact plan of how it needs to look like before being able to do it. So, deku, first thing he had to do was learn to do that. Memorize the way a weapon should be made, and being able to actually visualize everything perfectly. For deku, it was basically, like I said, it took around 6 months for him to learn everything about that. But yeah, basically the first weapon he made at the end of all of that was actually a katana, which is made of a special ore found only in this dimension. Well, not really only in this dimension, but it's not found in the dimension that Deku lives in. So since he's not going to any other worlds, you can say only there. He basically took in, well, that material is extremely light, but extremely durable. In itself, if you actually have not really the patience, but the strength to do it, you could cut through stones and other metals, well, stones, iron, other metals that are kind of the same hardness, a bit harder sometime, which is pretty strong. Also, the weight you can put on that without it breaking is pretty high as well, because it's literally made on demons, onis. So, Deku basically gets that first until well, he is ready to enchant it. It's basically going to stay like this for now. So, Deku, well, the elements Deku knows now, because that should be pretty much known. The elements he knows are fire, water, ice, plants, earth, thunder, wind. Let me just check the list. Fire, water, ice, plants, earth, wind, thunder. Okay, yeah. There was like 6 more. It's light, shadow. After that, there's darkness, which basically this one is mostly used to, well, hide from stuff. But yeah, so the other trees are. Wait. 3 or 2 left. Fire. Where the hell are they? I'm going to pause for a second. I can't even find the elements anymore. Be right back. Okay, yeah, sorry, I don't know what was happening. But yeah, basically the last three elements are gravity, pretty self-explanatory, life, which basically is kind of acting as healing, and if you train it hard enough, it's pretty freaking powerful. The last one is basically just called pure magic. That one is a lot harder to learn than the others because you basically have to to basically give a physical form to your magic, basically condensing it and giving it a form, or basically just hit someone with a wave of magic. Which, the reason it's pretty hard to do is because you literally have to control your magic and condense it. The more you want to condense it, well, the more you. If you want to do something truly solid, or something that you want to be sharp, or something like that, you need to increase the amount of compressing to a whole other level. Every basic, basically pure magic is the only element that people have to train a lot just to be able to use the first like basic spell. After that you can basically create different spell, combine elements, stuff like that, but yeah, basically it takes a while for that one. So Deku learned all of those um, in his own right. Just by that point, he only learned magic, but he's pretty freaking hard to kill. Because those were just the elements, as well as some of the other things. Because there's also enhancement magic, which is basically just enhancing your own body or the people or things around you. Um, there's modification magic, which is basically modifying your own body to accommodate a need that you have in the instant. Like, let's say you need to pass a lake. You can modify your body with it to give you gills and basically go underwater. If you have to hunt only underwater or in the air, you can basically modify your body to or give you wings, give you gills, fins, and webbed fingers, feet, and whatever. Or you can use the elements basically make a protection around you. And you get the point. So basically they can do a lot. Deku took 6 months to learn that, and that was faster than what the hunter was expecting. He was thinking it was going to take Deku at least 10 months to learn that, but he learned it all in about 6 months only. Which is a lot faster than he thought Deku would learn it. In reality, the only reason it went that fast for Deku was because he literally took off any other distraction and was only thinking about that, compared to what normally people do, which is actually to just kind of, well, do that, but not really. So, Deku basically kind of, well, went faster simply because he wanted to learn it more than doing anything else. Another thing that happened during those 6 months was that Deku took a piece of the special crystal that basically makes magic undetectable, and basically made himself a necklace using the forging magic, because creating a necklace is a lot easier than creating a weapon, since the necklace you're not using it in battle. So basically, he has a constant field around him that doesn't feel like there was any magic around him, which the man thought it was a pretty good idea. He wasn't he was still able to follow him, since he doesn't just follow magic, he also follows potential to find people, compared to Onis who only look for magic. So Deku, after that, for the next about 9.5 months, basically pushing him to 1 year, 3 months and a half. All he was doing during that time was strength training, speed training, endurance training, as well as mental training to increase his strength, speed, and stuff like that to a huge amount. After basically learning that, well, being taught that for a while, Deku's physical strength, because it wasn't just normal training, far from that. It was training as well as using the gravity magic, increasing his weight by a huge amount, forcing his body to get stronger extremely fast, as well as using life magic to basically heal himself constantly, making him quite, well, strong. Every night Deku slept afterward to basically get back his energy and over time get stronger, until at the last day of that training, the hunter told him, "Good, now I will teach you one last type of magic. This is one of the magic we use, that hunters use the most. It allows us to never, well, need sleep. You just have to relax and it basically feels as if you did sleep, making it quite a bit easier to replenish energy." Deku asked him how that one worked, because he still needs sleep to recover at night, with the man telling, well, the hunter telling him that not really. Once you learn this magic, you basically feel awake 24/7. You don't need sleep anymore, and simply sitting down for about an hour feels as if you took an entire night of sleep, ate well, and everything else. You still need to eat and drink, though. That's something. But at least you don't need sleep anymore, which makes the job of hunter quite a bit easier, I would say. Which Deku was eager to learn it. Which it's pretty easy for a type of magic. The only reason he waited that long to teach it to Deku was actually just because he wanted to know if Deku was truly resolved to doing it. And he saw that Deku was pretty into it. Reason for that is that, well, every day he was, for the last month or so, was asking, "Can we go hunting now? Can we go hunting now? Can we go hunting now?" Proving to the man that, yeah, no, he really wants to do this. Be right back. Hey, I'm back. Okay, yeah, so it only took Deku about, what, 2 weeks to learn that? Basically putting him at a year and 4 months in fully. So, Deku, basically after learning that, the hunter told him to create a new weapon because he wanted him to try and actually learn to use different weapons, mostly swords and hammers. Well, not really hammers, more like massive hammers, not just things you use to hit on some old nails, more like something you would use to basically break the jaw of someone by ramming it um, around your shoulder. Well, from above your shoulder. So Deku basically made himself a hammer this time and started to learn how to use it. Deku was pretty fast at learning it and pretty easy to do as well. Mostly thanks to all of the training he did, as well as thanks to the gravity training. After about, I would say, well, literally, after about 2 or 3 weeks of training with them, he has the way to use them pretty well ingrained in his movements. He's not perfect, but he's ready to go hunting now. Meaning that it's a big step. So the man basically tell him, okay, you are going to need to go hunting now. This is the last type of magic I can learn you. Well, teach you. Sleeping magic was the last thing I could teach you that was useful just normally. This is the last type of magic I can teach you because it is specifically made to hunt or to look for things. It is called search magic. This is how I was able to find you. I tracked on to a specific thing about you. What I took the first time I was looking for you was directly your potential. But if I know what I'm looking, if I don't know what I'm looking for, I can just make a circle around me and basically trace different things like magic, potential, power, and other things like that. This is pretty easy to do. All you have to do is just concentrate and send your magic around you. Which Deku did pretty easily since he knows well, he learned to control pure magic. Basically, it's one of the spells you would use with that, but it's not actually from that. It's more something that you can train thanks to that easier. So, Deku basically looks around for, well, an Oni, and after a small amount of time, he actually finds one. Which means he's ready to go hunting. He found one of these, well, a pretty low one. He was able to deduce just from the feeling that the magic had that this Oni basically had, well, plant type magic. Meaning that fire was pretty easy. Him and the hunter went towards it, making no sound while running, because Deku was taught how to do that. Since you must not let your enemy know that you're arriving. So Deku was basically able to get, well, there at the same time as his master. And then, after a bit of looking around, they found him. The hunter told Deku to try and see if he was good or evil by his aura, which Deku didn't get at first until he was explained. Every being has an aura around them. What I want you to do is try to feel his. I have to pause for a second, be right back. Okay. So, Deku tries to feel it, and he basically just tries to concentrate and sees an aura around it. He sees the one of his master, of himself, that of the Oni, and that of many more animals that are just around them. He sees that of his master, himself, and men are basically purely white. That of the animals are different colors. Wait, no. Opposite. The animals are purely white. Him and his masters are different colors. But the Oni is purely black. Which he tells that to the hunter. With the hunter telling him that this means he's a bad one. Those that have this type of aura around them are to be hunted. Which made Deku ask, how do we do this then? With him saying, you're doing it. But I can tell you that just by looking at him, this one is going to be pretty easy to kill. You just have to break the body enough for it to basically die. Break the heart, break the brain, something like that, and the soul will be released. So Deku took his katana, prepared a bottle, basically placed it in his, well, in a special pocket that basically is made for that, with the bottle right next, um, the lid basically right next to it, and then he goes in action, doing no sound, going straight around the Oni, the Oni looking to his side, basically because he heard some movement. It wasn't Deku, it was an animal, making Deku have a distraction, which Deku basically automatically came behind it and made a single slash, cutting the Oni in half, taking the heart out, killing it, which made, well, that was quite an easy job. Then the soul was released, and Deku was ready to trap it. The way you trap an Oni now. The way it works is actually not by any incantation or stuff like that. Well, just like any magic from this world. You just have to think of what the well, what the magic must do, how you want it to do it, and then throw it. So Deku basically readied the bottle, as well as the bottle cap, and basically just started to do it. If you can hear that, that's because my grandfather left his door open. I am very sorry. So, Deku basically trapped the Oni, which is quite easy. So he didn't have any trouble with that. So he basically just trapped the Oni, well, the soul, in the bottle, and went back to the hunter. The hunter told him it was a great job, and that now he was ready to enchant his first weapon, accessory, armor, or whatever, depending on what the power of the Oni was. Which Deku asked him, okay, how do I know that? With the hunter telling him, that's quite easy. You have to scan it, use it, and then see what it would give. Which his master did, basically using the same thing as Surge Magic, basically making a bubble around the bottle, scanning it, and basically telling Deku that this is interesting. This only has the capacity to heal. Which Deku asked him, what? Which he then explained that Onis can have or their elements to use against you. Well, when you infuse something with an Oni, it can or have their element, or something else depending on the strength they have. This one was a pretty low one, but the power it gave Deku is pretty rare, actually. He then explained that the way it works is that as long as you wear or are holding whatever it is inside of, you get a pretty good healing. As long as you're not dead, basically, so as long as your heart, brain still works, you can regenerate. He doesn't know the limit of it, though. All he knows is as long as you're not dead, you will regenerate. But he doesn't know if, oh, I lose a finger, it's going to grow back. But at least he can say that mm, it's still healing. So he told Deku that with an Oni that would do that, it would be better to put it in an accessory like a ring or a necklace or a earring, which is what Deku decided to do, an earring. So Deku basically having an exact thing he wants to do, just kind of sorry about that. Just kind of has the image of the earring he once had, and makes it. Basically, the way it works is that he creates it, and now the way to enchant it. This is the only type of magic that you actually need a circle to use. He makes a circle in the ground, on paper, or anything like that, places the thing he wants to enhance, at least a part of it in the middle, as well as the bottle um, in the circle. Then you actually need to use pure magic, which what you do is create a bubble around the soul that goes in the drawing, well, the circle, and then into whatever you want to enhance, well, enchant. And then you break the bottle, forcing the soul through the magic, enchanting whatever you put in the middle. So Deku basically just enchanted an earring with the power of healing. He's not going to keep that. At some point, he's going to give it away. Because, yes, it's an Oni, but basically they don't need to. You don't need to put magic into them to basically make them attack. It's just becomes a passive effect for different things. Some others you actually need to basically think for it to activate, but that is just something that's on 24/7. So as long as you have the earring on, you have the healing. So for now, Deku has that, and is pretty much good for now. In the next part, I'm going to do a brief explaining of some more of the training he did, the strength he has, some of the Oni he hunted, one in particular that's going to be funny, and then him going back to his world and stuff like that. So hope you liked it, leave a like if you did. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'm going to try and answer them. If you have anything to say or any what ifs you would like me to try and do, tell me as well. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to leave a link to my Discord in the description. Come and join us if you want to. It's pretty fun, to be honest. So yeah, hope you liked it. Natsu, out.